keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch a scenario on stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursue.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio once again with your host Nick Burnaby here on UCY.tv. Make sure you guys bookmark the site, check out the channel, follow some of these other shows and journalists that are on here, man. There's some good info, independent, hard-hitting stuff, you know, stuff that you're not going to see on TV or mainstream radio. And, you know, hopefully we try to apply a little bit less bias, a little more common sense. I'm also joined here by my co-host, DB Schwartz. How you doing tonight, bro? Hey, you there? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me, brother?
Now I can hear you. How you doing,
cool,
man?
I'm doing good, man. Let's give it up for Governor Nathan Deal.
Who's that?
He is the governor of Georgia who today signed the Guns Everywhere bill.
Oh, nice. I didn't even hear about that yet. I've been a bit tied up all day. I didn't catch anything. Yeah,
so, I mean, what we kind of expected to happen with our due process of people being able to get involved in politics is that when anytime there's something people are passionate about, there will be a backlash. And this was the backlash that is a result of Connecticut trying to do their gun grab. Well, guess what? Now in Georgia, you have to opt out if you want a gun-free zone. And you have to opt in if you're a school or a church. So if you're a school or a church, you're automatically gun-free, but you can decide to opt in. If you're anything else, including bars, you have to opt out yourself.
Well, I mean, it's a step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, this is what they're basically saying. Felons are going to be able to use it. And why? What they're saying, what does it matter anyway? These guys are dead meat anyway. If they try to do anything violent in our state, they don't know if the other person's armed now. Everybody's going to be armed now potentially, and if a felon wants to go ahead and throw their life away, he said, good riddance. He said, we'll let the people take the trash out themselves.
It's kind of, you know, it makes sense though, because let's say you do the opposite where it's everywhere is a gun-free zone. Now these felons and these violent people that are out to commit violent crime, either A, they're going to come find these weapons illegally, or they're going to do the violence with a knife or a bat or whatever. When someone's going to do violence, they're going to figure out a way to do it, whether it's with their bare hands or whether it's with a bazooka. You know? So, we can't really use laws to try to solve the problem of violence in this country. You know, laws legislating problems away over time and time again, it just doesn't work. I mean, look at Chicago. Chicago's a perfect example.
And plus it leads to the slippery slope that it's heading down right now as we speak, which is called thought crime / pre-crime, where they're going to take your past and say, we can predict by whatever we have on you from all kinds of electronic surveillance that we've had on you forever, that we know what you're going to do in the future and you're a threat. And so we're going to lock you up indefinitely. This is what this is all being set up for. And the thing is, it's ridiculous because anybody who's studied any kind of quantum physics knows that the prevailing theory is any day a choice changes our reality. So the whole thought of pre-crime, all that is a first, it's like a preemptive strike against anyone who might be a challenge to your authority. That's all it will be. It's not going to be about keeping the public safe at all.
No, because, I mean, we didn't get too much into this, but this is kind of a perfect example of, okay, is the government legislating to keep us safe, or are they legislating to keep themselves safe? Now we look at the NSA and this whole Heartbleed bug. Everyone knows about this Heartbleed thing. It was a problem with the SSL, which is the way most websites secure their information. And there was a bug, and guess what? What did the NSA do? They exploited it for 2 years. They didn't help us. They didn't say, oh, hey guys, our NSA has uncovered a bug where people are stealing your information. Let's go ahead and fix that 2 years ago. Nope, they exploited the bug. In fact, it's been shown that they were using the bug for their own purposes to gather information on us. Are they really trying to keep us safe? I mean, to me, this is like the biggest slap in the face ever. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people aren't up in arms about this one.
Well, they just don't. They cannot literally get it past their mind. This is Stockholm syndrome. You know what I mean? It's cognitive dissonance. It's a combination of massive propaganda on every single level, and then pharmaceuticals tied in with it, and junk food and GMOs, reprogramming your internal organs so you can't process toxin anymore. I mean, think about it. We're in an induced state in this country. I mean, from the air we breathe to the food we eat to the water we drink, and it's from day one. I mean, you're talking about a country that gives hepatitis vaccines to newborns. That should just ring so many bells to people that it's not at all about healthcare anymore. It's simply about, well, let's be honest, it's simply about population control and control in general at this point.
The world is coming to this point. Sorry, I don't know how long my microphone was locked there. The world is just getting to this point where we're getting tired of it. people in China, 30,000 people go on strike today. And, it's just the middle class getting squeezed out. You know, I don't know if you guys caught what I was saying there. I didn't, my mic went on, mute. But the middle class, according to a recent study, is getting squeezed out. In the last 14 years, the middle class has only increased its income by 0.3%. And Canada has increased its middle class income by 20%. So I think people are getting burned out, and we're getting to the point now where everyone is starting to get a little bit of a hint of realizing what's going on. Whether it's a little hint here, a little bit there. Maybe they're not full-fledged like you and me, and they're not talking about it 24/7 and trying to wake everybody up that they meet and all that stuff. But I think a lot of people are starting to realize something is drastically wrong, and things are getting ready to change very quickly pretty soon here. All right, I lost Dave. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know why my mic went on mute. Let's see if we can pull him back up here. All right, let's see if he gets back in, and I'll keep moving on here. Hey, you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm here.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. My mic went into mute, and then you were gone all of a sudden. It was weird.
Oh well.
So, I don't know how much you heard of what I was saying, but basically, people all around the world, and now it's the bug has even hit China, which it seems unlikely, but you got 30,000 workers in the streets in China today on strike. Okay. And, we're talking about people that have zero freedom, zero press, no freedom of speech, no rights really. And they're out there in droves taking this stuff on. You know, so I think it's the awakening or whatever, the enlightenment, the paradigm shift, whatever you want to call it, it's coming in. It's really, really close to being here. We're almost to the breaking point where we're almost at the majority. And when that happens, things are going to change very, very rapidly, and that's what we have to be careful for. And that things don't change to a point that we don't want them to go. Because that could easily happen. And whenever there's a vacuum, there's a void that must be filled. Right? And if we're not careful, the wrong set of people are going to fill that void.
Right. And they'll plan it, and they'll set it up so you need them real bad.
Exactly. And, you know, the whole thing is that we shouldn't even, if we're really going to evolve into a whole new society, we shouldn't even really have that void to be filled. You do away with that void, and then no one fills it. And then everyone gets some freedom. At least a bit, you know? That's what everyone needs, is a little bit of freedom. And once they get a taste of it, they won't want to let it go.
Right. But that assumes that we can get over our whole tribal, genetic pasts where we love to subdivide into different cultures. And what was it? Terrence McKenna always said that culture is the biggest, you know, enemy of humanity, because it does divide us along things that are kind of arbitrary, which is more or less where you're born. You know, where you're born dictates a lot of what you are and who you are, and it's kind of funny how that happens, that you get sucked into the whole I'm American, therefore when the bell is rung and I have to be asked to go to a war with Russia or with China, I'm expected to do so, even though I don't know those people halfway across the world and they don't know me. And what are we fighting for?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, culture and everything it's great. It's awesome. But what happens is that when these cultural powers get so strong that they want to force their culture on everyone else. And that's the problem that we keep seeing recurring over and over again, you know. And in essence, I mean, what America is doing now is kind of our culture, you know, because we're just mirroring exactly what the Romans did, you know, and it's kind of like, yeah, you know, this sense of preeminence and superiority, man. That's the complex that most Americans have. And it shows in our foreign policy, and the fact that a lot of people just don't take any notice to what we're doing in the Middle East and killing all these people and establishing a hegemony and all this stuff. It just shows that we think we're better than that. We're just like, oh, whatever. You know, it's not us.
Well,
you know,
it's just it just harkens back to the whole magnus opus of anybody that's born into this massive wealth, which is somebody's got to win. We can't all be just sitting here carving the world up, and then have competing space programs and have a big space war as we try to colonize different planets and stuff. I mean, there's going to be one group that just dominates all of the groups. Now the question is that going to happen through force or through coercion? And up until now, it's been happening through coercion. And it's been happening under the radar, but Snowden blew it open. He let everyone know what's going on. The tentacles are wrapped everywhere now, and everybody knows it. But when you kill the body of the squid, then all the tentacles die with it, sure, but then the body's dead too, which means if we want to heal the world, it's going to end up having to be rebuilt.
Yeah, and like we've talked about, it's time to start building. And I've seen a lot of people that a year ago, they were like these petition gathering types, and tell your representative to vote no and stuff.
Right.
Which, that I'm not saying that stuff doesn't work.
Right. It absolutely works. Look what happened in Georgia.
Exactly. If you have enough people to do it,
right,
by all means, it could work. But when it gets down to it, there's a lot more work to be done. Yeah, at the end of the day, why not? Why not throw a vote? I mean, I may not vote myself, but I'm not saying you shouldn't. But
people don't understand that when there's things that are done that they're put to a vote, it means that they're not important, because the important things are done without a vote. I'll give you an example. Obamacare was never put to a popular vote. It was just a decision made arbitrarily by the Fed, and it was basically held over the states by saying, we're going to, cut your funding. If you don't take this plan, we're going to cut your funding. Now, most states are fine with that, but you know what that's going to do here, Nick? We have 13 million uninsured inhabitants of this state. And once they go on to a free subsidized healthcare plan, well, that's probably going to double our taxes here. And I know that the people that are kind of the middling rich are already moving their mansions out of the state because they know their taxes are going to double or more. And this is the cost. People don't understand. When you're not politically involved, it doesn't matter whether or not you think things are going to affect you. They will anyway. I don't know how many of my friends are getting hit with hard taxes now because you're subsidizing a lot of other people. And the truth is that stuff should just be rolled into our national budget. And it's a mockery of our first world status that we still have insurance for healthcare when everyone else just has blanket universal healthcare.
Yeah, it just goes to show that our money is just, I mean, they actually probably at this point in time, the way that these idiots spend money, by all legitimate accounting reasons, accounting practices, they can't afford it. But the way these guys account for the way these guys account, they just create money out of thin air anyway. So what the hell? Why not just give universal health care? It's insane.
Right. And it could be, I think somebody broke it down that it would amount to something like between 2 and 3% of our defense budget would pay for, if it were done right, meaning that the emphasis was on prevention, which would, of course, destroy the healthcare profit margin, especially the pharmaceutical industry, that we could do nationalized healthcare for like $60 or $70 billion. If everybody got on top of their healthcare, just like they do in the UK, and they incentivize doctors to have people that lose weight and that have better cholesterol and all those other vital function numbers. It's just crazy. And we could do it here. It's just got to be done.
Yeah, man. And it's like, if people, I mean, if it weren't for all this stuff poisoning us, I mean, there would hardly be anybody that was sick.
No, it's all part of the game plan, because the cancer rates in the U.S. are a minimum of 15 to 20% higher than almost anywhere else. And you think that's just a coincidence? I mean, we have waves going all over the place all the time, including cell phones in our pocket all the time. I mean, I'm sure hip cancer is going to raise eventually. Just all these things bombarding us at all times.
Oh, no, that can't be true, man, because according to what they say on TV, America has a world-class healthcare system.
I think we're ranked, 48th or something?
Are you telling me that what they say on TV isn't true right now?
Actually, I think that's been reported. And the funny thing is that people that watch TV and see something like that, well, then they have to go to work and they have that health care provided. But what if they lose their job? They just don't get it yet. The economy is sloughing off jobs that give benefits and replacing them with really meager, low-paying jobs. And when people get a taste of what the real healthcare system is, they start getting really irate about it.
Yeah, and I'm starting to see a lot of people that are like, oh, my insurance won't cover this and all this stuff.
Right.
It's like these grassroots Democrats, and yes, they still exist. These Obama activists, Hillary activists, and these type of things. These one of their biggest arguments, and I see it and I hear it all the time. Oh, well, this is how we're going to screw the insurance companies over. We're making them accept people with pre-existing conditions, this, that, and the other talking point. Now, I mean, in theory, maybe this is screwing the insurance companies, but there's a big maybe there, considering that the law was essentially written by insurance company lobbyists. Unfortunately, that whole argument is kind of just completely Orwellian.
Let's say that their premiums, through their own a good nature of the government, because it forced the insurance companies into a bargaining position, they had to lower their premiums 5% across the board. They just added like 90 million customers. You think they care?
It's called broadening. By force. It's called broadening out the base. You hear these politicians talk about it all the time. You lower taxes, you get more people to pay taxes. It's the same idea.
And then what you do is you tack fees on, because guess what? I had a friend, he went through Obamacare, he went through the whole process. He said it took him 6 days. His bank account's tied in now. He pays $1 a month for his Medi-Cal. And I'm like, cool, buddy. Guess what's going to happen now? Like, whatever the $300 or $400 you're supposed to be paying, and then whatever you go in and never pay your doctor visits beyond your copay, that's just all going to get thrown back into this pool. And then they're going to up on property tax or sales tax or somewhere else. And you're still going to pay it, and then I'm going to pay it too.
Yeah,
there's no free lunch.
The poor man's going to end up paying it through sales taxes.
Yes. So when people think it's free, it's not. It's subsidized insurance. It's not universal health care. There's a huge difference. You get put on a policy. If you're on Medi-Cal and you need something done, good luck. Welcome to the waiting game.
Waiting list. I mean, who knows how long it'll take to get your stuff done, and you're not priority, that's for sure.
No, not at all.
You're treated, once we start talking about these kind of healthcare system, you become just part of the sales base. You become part of the inventory. You're not really a face to these multinational insurance companies. You're just another stat, dude, and you're just another profit, and now it's forced down the barrel of a gun. And if you don't pay it, you get taxed.
Well, now we have very real classism among our healthcare, because the poorest of the poor who are subsidized are going to get not that great. And then it's going to be funny because those that are the working poor and have these excessive HMO healthcare plans probably will end up getting worse care than Medi-Cal. And then, and you'll have a bunch of the diminishing middle class, which, by the way, I don't know if you saw today, but Canada crept over us now. Canada's a richer country, per capita and GDP than we are now. And that trend's going to continue because they're just tapping into all of their immense resources.
I think that's one of the things I was talking about when my mic gave out.
Yeah, you're looking at the shift going on with the gutting of the country, because the resources we've basically been able to, take from other places around the world to continue our consumption levels are gone now. They're gone. There's nothing left, really.
Well, and the native populations have become unfriendly. Look at Iran. I mean, a perfect example. We were robbing Iran for a long time until they got wise to it. Until they had an American educated dude come over and nationalize the oil industry, and then too bad, guys, we're going to overthrow your elected government. Right. And it's just and it's just part of this insane foreign policy. I want to get a little bit more into this foreign policy stuff. Obviously, we have this situation going on in Ukraine, and we're seeing the hype building. The Cold War rhetoric and stuff in the media. I'm sure you guys saw the reports of American troops arriving in Poland. I think it was just a symbolic thing because I don't think there were that many troops showing up. But then again, we already have a shitload of troops in Germany. Right. I mean, we already have guys over there. It's not like, it's like as if, we're sending guys in. It's like, dude, we already have bases in 150 countries. We already surround the Russians. It's as if they don't, it's as if they think it's some kind of secret or something. We got people in Korea. You know, we got people all over Europe. We got people in the Middle East. We got people in all these places, man. In every European country, pretty much.
Well, we've surrounded Russia and China. China was called the String of Pearls, and then of course Russia had NATO to kind of keep it from being able to push west, and all it could do was kind of go east, which is not where they want to go with India and China there. So, yeah, the things have worked out to where it looks like they're setting it up where we're gonna square off against Russia, and it's a hopeless battle for them, hopeless, and it's just going to be used to, I don't know, reappropriate debts here and there. And I'm sure China's going to square off with Japan, man. That's what it's looking like, at least. It looks like it's going to be a one-on-one and one-on-one. We'll see what happens. This is where things are, troop positions are moving around. I know you probably look into Veterans Today and then other websites like that, and they kind of let people know what's going on, and there's build-up, big-time build-up.
And, you know, one thing is that it's going to come down to the real battle. You know, China has got these people massively brainwashed, but the news out of China today shows that there were these 30,000 dudes going on strike, which means that there's some crackings going on there. There's some definite tension going on there. We know the Russians, a lot of the Russians are brainwashed, nationalistic, and all this stuff, but Russia also has a lot of big protests, a lot of disillusionment with the people, the working class. And, you know, Russia's got the same problem we've got. They've got an oligarchy. They've got a small class of mega billionaires. And then they got a bunch of, you know, lower, you know, working poor, basically.
Well, they do have an expanding middle class that's kind of like its own Silicon Valley, though, around Moscow. And it's several million people making a pretty good living that you know, basically that's Putin's political power base, is all these tech guys, and they're making good money, 100, 200,000 a year in Moscow, which is great. And then you have all the billionaires in Moscow. So you have this mini city state that's enormously powerful. And then all the resources of Siberia and all their military technology they have. And they're probably behind us only by, I don't know, a few decades, but that's still huge though, you know. So yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what's going on, man. It looks like oligarchs are about to square off and fight it out just for more stuff. I guess they want each other's resources or whatever.
I mean, I'd be in favor of rounding all these dudes up and just putting them in a room and see who comes out.
Yeah, well, Putin will probably win. I mean, can anybody beat Putin in a one-on-one who's a politician? I'm not sure, because he's like a jiu-jitsu guy, isn't he? I don't know any other politicians that seem like they're. Maybe Chris Christie could sumo him out of there. I don't know.
Okay, so we got this Ukraine thing hyping up, man, and I think we all know that it's kind of the same old story. It's Cold War hype, it's proxy war, it's let's spend all the poor people's resources while the rich guys get richer, and let's minimize our own deaths, but let's not worry about how many Ukrainians have to suffer, you know, and perish in the meantime, which is kind of, you know, our way of doing war recently. And then our own guys end up killing themselves more than they get shot because they're so tired of fighting in these unjust wars, and they're hyped up. They stick them on all these medications. They give them all this traumatic training and traumatic experiences. All this stuff combines up where, you know, our morale has never been lower, man, in the military. I don't know when our morale has ever been lower. I don't know if we've ever had these kind of rates of suicide even during the Vietnam era, man.
I know that it's starting to affect local economies nationwide. Like with the Army announcing they're going to cut something like 80,000 troops. Places like Kylene, Texas, which has Fort Hood, know they're going to get like a 10,000 troop cut, and already big Fortune 500 companies are letting leases expire and moving out of that community. And you know, when your military is your biggest industry, and we can't flex it anymore because now there's just way too many other actors on the world stage that can compete. You know, something's going to have to give here really soon. And, you know, of course they're going to the drone army and the drone military because they just don't want to pay these guys. They don't want to deal with the healthcare and the pensions of all these human beings anymore. And they don't want to have to worry about morale and people following orders and questioning orders anymore.
Exactly, man, and I guess Yemen got a taste of that this weekend. Over 60 dead over the weekend in Yemen, and I did an article on this today, and just to get some of these pictures out there of this horrific scenes that happened after these drones hit, because being here in America, we don't really understand what it's like. And you want to talk about PTSD with these military guys? Yeah, that's a huge problem. But if we want to talk about PTSD in Yemen, you're talking about 80 to 90% of the population with PTSD.
Right, because bombs are going off in all the urban areas all the time. I mean, it's similar. You know what's funny is people tell me that it's almost a weird reverse thing like that in Israel, where they're so used to the violence, but they're so used to, giving it back that it's actually considered, it's kind of like thrilling that these idiots are it gets to be, it messes you up psychologically. And in Yemen, it's just no warning, and then a huge explosion and a drone's miles up in the sky, and then it'll double tap it. So you're never safe. You have to run anytime something hits, and then anybody that responds now knows they can't. So, yeah, man, it's got to be chaos, and from chaos order, right? And they start in the countries where they can't defend themselves.
Yeah, man, and if you look at the stats and who's dying in these hits, in these drone strikes, unfortunately, unlike what the mainstream media says, 40 militants were killed in Yemen today. Well, unfortunately, they basically classify anybody as a militant. And, of course, we talked about this last week, the rhetoric in the mainstream media about how they changed from pro-Russian protesters in eastern Ukraine changed over to pro-Russian militants, essentially terrorists. And then at the same exact time, Ukraine announces our anti-terror campaigns to go in and crush this, insurrection of these terrorist militants that are in East Ukraine. And it's overnight that these guys changed from protesters to militants, and all of a sudden, okay, it's open game. You kill any of them? All right, we'll still give you money. And they're negotiating I just saw an article. I didn't actually get to read it. I was just scrolling through. And something like $17 billion is they're trying to pump into Ukraine now to prop up this Western backed regime. $17 billion. This is insane.
I think that's actually, I actually read something where it was going to probably approach 50 after it was all said and done. The IMF was done with bringing in Halliburton type infrastructure groups to rebuild after the inevitable war. They know Kiev's going to go down, and Odessa, the port, will get hit and everything else. They're expecting it. They have construction companies on the ready, and they have contracts already done. It's done. There's $50 billion of economic activity, and that's pre-pipeline. The pipeline will bring in maybe trillions of dollars.
And did they want this to happen? I mean, if these contractors are going to come in and make all this dough, I mean, you have to wonder. I mean, there's a conflict of interest. Do they want this to happen? Did they want
hedging.
Ukraine? Did they actually want to take over this Western-backed, banker-backed Ukrainian government, actually peacefully take over this country? Or did they want this to turn into a civil war where they can just pump a ton of money into this thing? I mean, at this point, who knows? Chances are that they did want this stuff to happen.
Sure. I mean, any conflict is great because it drives warfare, and the defense industry actually has a blank check. I mean, look at the F-35. The new fighter jet that I don't know what are we in the hole now? $2 trillion of R&D and production costs for a fighter plane that we didn't even really need because we were already like a decade ahead of everybody else. I mean, we're talking about science fiction type stuff now with these silent Harriers that are radar invisible. So we're so far ahead of everybody else. It's just a big game now, and we're probably using all of our low technology crap, hoping it just gets destroyed so they don't have to inventory it anymore.
Yeah, man, it's the nature of the military-industrial complex.
Yes.
And Eisenhower warned us about it back in the late 50s, and he knew it was coming after the whole Korean thing.
Yep.
After World War II, the defense industry, not only did they inherit all the Nazis, the Nazi scientists, but they got bloodthirsty, man. They needed that money, and let's face it, the economy we were just rebounding. we were just rebounding out of the Great Depression, out of World War II, right? So the government at the time they probably looked at it and they were like, oh, well, maybe this war stuff is the key to keeping us out of these damn depressions. And so let's just keep up this defense budget, and then we're just going to have to throw the resources out there every now and then, so we got to keep building them.
You're on to something there, and it's kind of the creature from Jekyll Island was geared to make our base, which has great central location in a lot of ways, and we have huge resources, and we have a really hardworking population that let's create the Federal Reserve. Let's basically go kick everyone's ass so they take our notes, and we're just going to make them notes. We're not going to actually make them tender. Like, everybody in the world is just going to have to keep using it because we're just badass. We'll come screw you. We'll take you over. We'll throw you over. We'll throw you out. We'll take you over. It doesn't matter if you don't play our game. And this is the petrodollar. That is the game.
Yeah, and back in the day, back in the 50s, back in the 60s and stuff, maybe we did benefit from that hegemony. Maybe the average American,
sure.
maybe our grandparents, they got to be upper middle class or middle class and actually had to have a job. At least part of my family got to experience that. The other part of my family was living in the slums in Philadelphia, but a lot of people at that time benefited from that stuff.
Sure.
But nowadays, modern day, there's only 0.001% of the country that legitimately benefits from these wars. I mean, talking about making the millions and billions. Yeah,
well,
yeah, there's a lot of people working in the military that maybe you can say they're benefiting, but if you're working in the military, chances are you're getting paid not very much. You're getting exposed to these horrific issues. You're getting exposed to this PTSD and all these other issues that come along with it too.
Oh, I mean, you're a guinea pig too, because they'll pump you with every single kind of vaccine there is, and you'll be in every trial there is, and you give up your constitutional rights and you become subject. They basically more or less fully invoke your social security number and make you a property of the state. So is it a good deal? Well, if you go in 4 years and you get a trade that you can market when you get out and make 100, 200 a year, sure. But is that the reality for most people? No. Is the 50s reality with the white picket fence there anymore? Not really. I mean, it is, but you have to have a very advanced degree to make enough money to have that American lifestyle, and it's diminishing rapidly. And there's no answer from our government, despite the fact that there is the technology that is available to continue our prosperity and then even spread it around the world.
Yeah, now one thing to remember is that back in the 50s, a lot of these people, not only were they this whole white fence dream, this whole American dream, white picket fence, but that was on a single income, man. I mean, Nowadays it's like, if you still want to live that dream, okay, that's 4 jobs. That's the guy's got to work 2.5 jobs. The woman has to work a job and a half, and then once your kids are 16, they gotta go work. You know what I mean? That is if they can get a job.
Right.
I mean, so it's just like, dude, they're squeezing us at every single angle. Every angle, man. And that's why I think we're seeing more and more people that you wouldn't think, more and more people that are not the working poor, that are not the people that are massively oppressed as far as we think about classically. But now even the regular working middle class is becoming an oppressed class too.
Well, it's classism, and the classism is becoming it's borderline deadly. And we know this because if they cut food stamps, there'd be huge food riots. That's the only reason they don't do it. They're not prepared for it yet, but they will eventually when they're ready for it. They'll cut the food stamps, and there's 50 million people that need them. And that's just it. We can't, unless our goal as a society is to let that bottom sixth of our country more or less be at the whim of our government, meaning they'll just be thrown into these camps because they cannot provide for themselves in the current way that our economy is structured. Then we're going to have to have some way where they can basically feed themselves. We're going to have some, street to farm program for these people, because if society's not going to do it, we just need to allow them to do it themselves.
Exactly, man. And right now, most of these policies are not helping. They're just not helping. And the fact is that almost all of these policies, just like you talked about with the healthcare, Let's talk about preventative measures. Let's not talk about, okay, we have a problem, let's throw a Band-Aid over top of it and give food stamps. Let's talk about, okay, well, the reason why there's so many poor and there's so many in poverty, well, one, it's the monetary system and the economic system at large. And two, these people are getting stuck with crap educations. You know, they're getting the poor man education.
You know?
It's not even education. Now it's become brainwashing, for the most part.
And these kids they cannot function outside of our country anymore. Have you seen the Common Core way of how they're teaching basic addition, subtraction, multiplication now? I mean, they're using a way that they came up with out of thin air they thought would be quicker. It looks like a computer, the way a computer would figure out math. And some guy who looks at the world like a computer decided it was more efficient and decided that would be thrown in so these kids could relearn everything. I mean, it is getting ridiculous. History classes are teaching blatantly obvious, you know, fallacies to anybody who even went to school 20 years ago. Whatever kids are learning today is just completely fake, especially about our own Constitution and the amendments, and that's, of course, on purpose. So it's a failure by design. And if you allow your child to go to public school, and I'm going to say allow because there are options, they haven't taken them away yet, you're just turning them into part of the problem. We need more free thinkers because all these sheeple drone type people they're going to go to slaughter when anything gets tough and things are going to get tough.
What we need is for people that know how to teach, but that aren't in the system because, you know, check this out. My girlfriend is studying to be a teacher right now, and she's about a year away from teaching in the classroom. And a lot of her friends that were going to school with her just dropped out of it because of the bureaucracy of just becoming a teacher is like a pain. She's been going to school for like 6 years, bro. Yep. And it's just a bureaucracy just getting in. Okay, so a lot of the people that actually would probably make really good teachers and are probably free-thinking people, they already get sucked into the system so early that they quit before they even start. You know, so what we need to do is find people that know how to teach and get them to start giving these free community classes, man. And then, okay, if you're a parent that can afford to pay, okay, donation, pay $20, $30, whatever. A week, whatever.
Exactly.
At least at first, you know, and because we got to start providing alternatives to this education system because it's clear that it's heading for an implosion.
It is, and it could be done with some simple measures like where we have community opt-ins for taxes. Do you know what I mean? Like instead of me paying something to the Fed, I want to opt into my own state fund, especially on a community level, and I want to personally become a shareholder in my local elementary schools, and I want to own them, and I want to make sure that they're doing a good job and make money off of the students, however that might work. If we're going to take capitalism to an insane level like it is now with Citizens United, then let's make it work for ourselves and start buying our own infrastructure back before China buys it out. And we can start doing the things we want on an individual level. Imagine if me and you could go down right now and put $500 down on Lincoln High School. And if enough people did it, we bought it and we owned it and we controlled the curriculum. I mean, things like that are available to do.
I mean, and then we could tailor the curriculum for what people actually face in the community, man. Then we may actually be in touch with what the students actually need.
Yeah, and we can train for our own companies. I'm envisioning Qualcomm having a heavy hand in high schools and owning them and being a corporate, father figure type, because you're going to be funneling these students up in. They're going to want to stay in San Diego, and you want to home grow them. I mean, there's all kinds of ways we can do this. The way it's working now is working for the 0.001%, and everybody else is just completely screwed over.
I think these, educational co-ops need to start up in the poor communities because let's face it, the poor people are getting hit the worst with this education, man. I went to school here in Chula Vista where it's very poor. It's about 90% Hispanic. They don't give a damn about the politicians don't give a damn about what these kids want to learn. When I was in senior year, they took a personality test and there wasn't one highly skilled job on the damn job test, dude. It was all like just dumbed down stuff that they expect all these kids to jump into. And now, to tell you the truth, I know a lot of kids that I went to school with that were extremely, extremely smart, talented, artistic people, scientific. My buddy developed bacteria that would eat through oil slick in high school, man. And what did he end up doing? He ended up becoming a Marine and working on helicopters. You know, so these kids, even if the school does recognize, okay, well maybe this kid is pretty smart, and they're going to try to give him a little more opportunities, which they do a little bit. These kids still ended up once they're done with high school, they're not prepared for anything, and they end up falling into the military or falling into something, you know, that's dead end, and it sucks, and it's kind of just like you said, it's by design. And my buddy that went to school in a nicer area, when he was in 11th grade, they were teaching these kids entrepreneurial skills and stuff like that. You know? So, I mean, there's definitely some discrimination there in the educational system. So I think, I mean, if we could start springing up these kind of educational co-ops there, I mean, man, we could do so much good for people and teach so many skills and teach the new economy, the new way of thinking to these kids. You know, the open source economy and the sustainable economy and the self-reliant economy. I mean, there'd be no limit to what we could achieve doing that.
And there's an obvious grab going on for the future right now, and we're being sold piecemeal to China because of our debt. I told you already that the Reed thing with the BLM is basically the beginning of our selling of our infrastructure for power, being solar, to Chinese interests to pay off our debt to them. And that debt's fake. That debt is made by a handful of guys becoming billionaires here on the backs of, I don't know, a couple 100 million slaves over there. It's just sick. And we can't let that happen. I mean, everybody, while it's still possible, should be getting in on this solar panel bonanza going on with this California tax where they're about to cut like half of your system out of your taxes owed. Everybody should get their individual solar panels now and get off of this grid. That way, when China buys it up, they're making peanuts because everybody's making their own solar.
Yeah, and then, you know, we talked about this last show. The less you have to rely on somebody else for something, especially something you rely on to survive, like electricity, because without electricity, Americans couldn't survive, because how are you going to refrigerate your food? You're not, you know, and you can't, most people don't have access to get fresh food locally. So without electricity, guess what? You're done. You got to turn to the government for a handout or hope someone bails you out, you know, some way or another. So,
they'll bail you out, but they'll control your life after that. I mean, it's going on now with FEMA camp concentrations of the homeless, where they're, you know, whatever they're deciding to do with these people, does anybody even know what's going on? I don't know. I only hear stories, and now stories about other states starting it, like Utah, where but at least Utah has the free home program. So, you know, we got to come up with different ways. We can't just let these people fall through the cracks to the whims of the government. I'm sure they're doing all kinds of awful things with them.
Yeah, and there's just no trust left. We talked about the heartbleed bug. That, to me, just really hit the nerve on me. Now we got these antibiotic superbugs. Okay, antibiotic resistant bugs, MRSA, spreading into the average everyday home, and MRSA used to be really, really rare. But once again, it goes back to show that the government has approved of all this, and the FDA and the USDA, whoever the hell regulates this stuff or is supposed to regulate this, they've been approving of the overuse of antibiotics for the past, 80 years since it got discovered, 100 years ago, 120 years ago, that you could use antibiotics. And now we're starting to see all these diseases that are bacterial based that normally back in the day you can just give yourself a little penicillin and it's gone. Now it's just MRSA. I mean, if you catch MRSA nowadays, there's a good chance you're going to die from it. You know, and this just goes to show that we can't trust these people, not with our regulations. We can't trust them with our taxes. We can't trust them with our defense. We can't trust them with our privacy. We can't trust them with our communications. And yet every day they want to increase their control over it. As if we don't know what the hell is going on. You know, it's like, oh, you guys have ruined everything you've done so far. Let me give you a little more control over my life. Just like with this Obamacare thing, man. It's like, okay, well, you've messed up everything. You've messed up Social Security. You've messed up all the entitlements. Let's go ahead and put you guys in charge of another one. You know, it just doesn't make any damn sense.
And people just don't get it. And then they go along with it. All of my friends I know got $100 or $200 a paycheck tax increases. And they said, oh, the taxes went up a lot. That's a lot of money. Do they not get that, where that's going? You're about to subsidize all these people that don't work for healthcare, and they're going to go to the hospital a lot. They have nothing but time. And they're going to be the biggest hypochondriac nation you've ever seen here.
And it all goes back to the whole prevention thing, man. And it's just, that's just something that our government doesn't do well. They
don't want to.
They'll throw $1 billion Band-Aid on something before they'll throw $1 million at preventing. You know, and that's just how they work, and it's reactionary. It's not common sense. It's illogical for the most part. And the foreign policy is creating more terrorists. The financial policy, that even though that the stated mission statement of the Federal Reserve is to promote full employment and home ownership. And unfortunately, they're making the unemployment problem worse by making these companies a lot richer and allowing them to replace all these jobs with machines.
And they're sitting on cash, which is the worst part. Like Apple, it was released today, had $147 billion of cash, which they said is worth more than the entire world's packaging industries all combined, which is like UPS and FedEx and everywhere in the whole world. They're sitting on so much cash right now that they could probably cure, I don't know, any disease. 147 billion, they're just sitting on it. There's no one left to buy really, because they buy up the best people, and so nobody can compete with their brain trust. I mean, this is going to be one of those megalithical corporations that pushes for a verified corporatocracy in our state. You know, it just came out that Princeton said we're an oligarchy, but that'll change to a corporatocracy soon, because there's going to be so many of these mega billionaires. They're all going to want to buy their kingdoms everywhere.
Oh, it just sounds so just awful.
Dystopian.
The way that the way things are heading, and the way the government is seemingly pushing us. And you know, fortunately for us, there is this movement. You know, there are people that want to change things. And I really think that we're going to win. And I really think that this whole Cold War push, this whole World War III hype, honestly, man, at least when it comes to the West, maybe the Russians will fall for it, and maybe the Chinese will fall for it. But the West, the Americans and the Europeans, the citizenry are done, man. We're just done. We're not going to do it anymore. And I think it's to a point now where it's just going to become ever more evident that what is being done to us and how we're being robbed, whether it be through monetary or foreign policy or corporatism or whatever it is that's happening, people know it's wrong, and they're done with it, and they're not gonna take it anymore. There's no way in hell America is gonna support any kind of war with Russia or China. We're just not. And if these oligarchs want to take it out on their own terms, cool. But I don't think that we're going to participate in this madness. You know, and they may sacrifice a bunch of these military guys. But
there'll be many conscientious objectors, and they'll know who they are based on all their thought and pre-crime crap they have and algorithm stuff. And there's going to be so many people willing to line up to protect the homeland, because it will come here if it comes to fighting another superpower. It's to the point now where a world war will truly be a global war in every aspect, including having troops on U.S. soil. We all know this. They've been prepping for this forever. Our own cell phone towers are IDF weapons that can be used against everybody, including our own citizenry. So everything is super booby trapped and prepped. NORAD's extra hardened up in Colorado, where all the real important people will be. And it's all ready to go, man. The show's ready. The curtain just hasn't come up yet, because I guess not everybody's bought enough popcorn for it to be worth it yet.
Well, you know, these government bureaucrats are so inefficient at what they do. They're probably in the business of foiling their own plans as well. Fortunately for us, they can't even pull their own things off. Right, because they're so just backward thinking in their ways. And
they're so corrupt to foreign governments themselves. I mean, how many people are in the pocket of Israel now, or is Israel controlled by who controls us? And who controls them? See, there's so many puppets and so many strings, and they're all intertwined now. Nobody really knows what's going on. We all just know one thing, that stuff's going to pop off sooner or later, and we can do our best to make people aware of that so that we can put pressure on our own government as citizens of our own country and make it uncomfortable for them to try to start something crazy. I think part of what our push did was disrupt any plans to drop guys into Syria itself. And we're seeing here where they're going to just go into Poland. Well, big deal with Poland. Now, maybe if they went into Western Ukraine, that might have been something else.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't see us letting it happen. And these idiots are going to run their mouths on the media. They're going to try to hype it up. But the internet.
It means war. It means war, and a real one, and a draft probably, because Russia's it's not a joke. This is not Iraq. We can't steamroll a country that's like that. It's going to be a real one, and everybody's going to have to fight. And people that are sitting at home in their basement playing Call of Duty are about to go to boot camp.
And let's face it, the internet is anti-war. Most of the internet is anti-war, and that's what's going to stop them. Because not that many people watch their BS TV programs anymore. So I mean, I'm not as worried about World War III actually happening as I am worried about what these idiots are going to try to do to get us into it.
Right. And how many people can they get rid of to try to gain better control through less pop? You know what I mean? How many major cities can get hit by conventional stuff? There won't be nukes. Nobody's crazy enough to start launching nukes because it kills everyone, including their families. But they're sure going to be happy to use 1940s and 50s tech all over again and drag out some massive guided missile conventional warfare with all kinds of space age crap used as a last resort. I mean, this is what to me seems what's gearing up.
Yeah, and if we look at what they've done in the past to try to get us into these wars, especially in World War I and II, man, the people did not want to get into those wars. And they have to pull something. They've got to pull a false flag, or they've got to pull some kind of psyop to trick everybody. Because right now the people in general are not with it. But we're one false flag away from all of a sudden thinking about doing something really stupid. And that's where we have to be careful.
See, but nobody wants that even at the top, and that's the only thing preventing it now. Because they themselves and all of the people they love and care about also will be all in jeopardy. Everybody's in jeopardy if it goes into martial law. Anything could happen. If soldiers opened up fire on people that didn't want to follow rules and killed a lot of people, and it became like a Boston Tea Party type thing where if they're killing us, they're going to kill us everywhere. It's time to fight back now, and it starts pandemonium. Then they'll be overthrown and they'll be found out no matter how far down they go into these dumbs. They can't run away from 300 million people. So it has to be done carefully, and that's why time is on our side. Even though people think it's imminent, it's going to take them years and years to get everything prepped. And during that time, we can start to pull away and come to what's going to be our new way of life. We're going to have to fend for ourselves sooner or later because these big companies are the enemy, and they will pull the plug when the time is right.
Now on Thursday, May 15th, at least here in San Diego, at 4 p.m. at the San Diego Federal Courthouse, we're going to have basically a protest against the foreign policy. It's specifically against drones. It's being organized by Veterans for Peace, and I think it's a nationwide thing. So check it out in your area if you guys are interested and you want to, get out there and try to talk to some people about about the dangers of this war state and this foreign policy that we're doing. And you want to talk about, the problem with trying to solve our issues down the barrel of a gun. Look up your local Veterans for Peace. These people, you don't have to be a veteran to join up with them or to meet up with them. They're really nice people. Most of them are Vietnam vets that are against war because they've seen how bad war is. Check that out. Check us out on Friday with Levon, and we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Going I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.